We've now created a scene that has an ammo prefab inside it. If I select the object here, you can see the ammo prefab that we have created. We can go ahead and delete that if we want to. We don't need to keep this object inside the scene. We've already generated a prefab from it down here inside the project panel. What I want to do now is to be able to press the fire button on the mouse and to generate this ammo prefab in the scene, so it appears to come out of this gun turret here. So you can see in the hierarchy panel that we have the gun turret if I select the object here, but beneath this as a child object we have an empty game object called the spawn point. And if I zoom in inside the viewport here, the scene viewport, you can see we have this spawn point object and the forward vector is pointing outwards in this direction, which represents the direction that the ammo should travel when it's generated in the scene. Now, to generate the ammo when we press the fire button, we need to create a completely new script file and attach that to the spawn point. So to do this, I'm going to move the cursor down here into the project panel, and I'm going to right click here and choose create, and then select C# script from the context menu. And I'm going to call this ammo generator and press enter on the keyboard here. I'm going to load this script file inside MonoDevelop. So I'm going to double click this here, and then MonoDevelop loads. So we have this ammo generator class, and inside this class, I'm going to create a completely new public variable. This is going to reference the ammo prefab that we need to generate. So I'm going to choose public game object, and I will call this ammo prefab, and it's going to equal the initial value of null, meaning nothing. Now, I don't need to access the start function at all. I'm going to select all of this and just remove that. And then come inside the update function here. And I want to read data from the mouse to determine whether we're pressing the fire button. So to do that, I can read the button or the axis that's called fire1. So I'm going to choose if input.getButtonDown. And then I'm going to choose the axis fire1. Like so. So if we are pressing fire 1, that is the fire button on the mouse, then we want to generate ammo into the scene. To do that, I can use the function called instantiate. So I'm going to choose instantiate here. And notice that the parameters here, or rather there are 3 parameters, there are 3 versions of this function. Now the one that I am interested in here is the third one. This one allows us to specify the object to generate, the position at which it should be generated, and whether it should have any rotation at all. So the object that I want to generate here is this ammo prefab object. So I'm going to select that and put it in as the first parameter. The second parameter is the position where it should be generated, and this should be at the same position as the empty game object, that is the spawn point. To do that, I can choose transform.position. Notice in this case I'm using the lowercase transform object that is implicit or built into Mono behavior. Generally, we will want to use the getComponent function inside the awake to get a reference to the transform component. I'm just doing this here as a means of a shortcut. The reason for this will become clear later, because generally I'm going to recommend avoiding the instantiate function completely, but I want to show you how we can use instantiate to dynamically generate ammo objects. So for the third parameter, this should be the rotation of the object. I'm going to leave this as completely 0 rotation, the default rotation, which is quaternion.identity. So I'm going to choose here for this quaternion.identity and then close that function here. That will generate an ammo prefab at the position of the spawn point. I'm going to close MonoDevelop here and return back to the Unity editor. When I do this, the code compiles, and I will drag and drop the ammo generator script onto the spawn point here and select the spawn point, and you'll see that the script is attached. It's asking for an ammo prefab here. This should be the ammo object or the ammo prefab. If I go to the project panel and I select the ammo prefab, I can drag and drop that into this slot. I'm going to select the existing ammo object in the scene and delete that completely. Now when I press play on the toolbar and I click my mouse, we're now generating an ammo object. But notice I'm using 0 rotation. So this is not quite right here because I'm generating the ammo object, but it's not being rotated. So what I need to do to repair this problem is to go back to the script file here. So I'm going to double click on the ammo generator to bring that back into MonoDevelop. This time, where we used no rotation at all, I'm going to change that to use the transform rotation. So I'm going to choose transform dot rotation here and press Ctrl S to save that. I'm going to go back to MonoDevelop or back to the Unity editor, and I'm going to press play again. And now this time, notice the ammo is being generated and the ammo is being fired at the correct orientation or in the correct direction because we changed the rotation parameter. The last thing that I want to do is to change the scale of the ammo because I think the ammo is far too large. So I'm going to fix that quite easily. To do that, I'm going to move down here to the project panel, select the ammo object, and just change the scale from 1 to 0.3 here. So let me just choose 0.3 and press enter on the keyboard. And now when I press play on the toolbar, I can now fire the ammo and it's looking much better. Now, of course, notice that this generation is generating objects here in the scene. You can see them building up inside the hierarchy panel. And as I click, more and more are generated. You can see this list getting longer. This introduces some problems, and we're going to look at how we can start fixing these next.